some of the other options that relate to overlay and merge include the option to overlay the target, relink the holdings and item records, and delete the source. And we can also proceed with overlaying the target, relinking the holdings and items records while retaining the source. And then, of course, merging the records to protect specific marked fields. So here are three other options that that we're able to use that give us a way to be again, tidying the data, making sure that everything is just as clean as we want it to be on the basis of our own decision making. So going back out to the cataloging client, I wanted to start out with, let's see what we can get for things in relation to things medieval. Okay, so there's one record I know I want in this particular case, and let me just go ahead and by clicking on the title bar, because I have the sort function enabled, I'm able to reorganize things pretty much the way I want to. And one of the ones that I want to get hold of is the title Medieval Mischief. All right, let's must have missed it somewhere here. We got Medieval Miscellany, the Medieval World. Okay, just organizing it here to get hold of Medieval Mischief. And in fact, we do have a couple of records in the database there. I'm going to retrieve one of them. And so here, in fact, we can see that this particular record has the indication that it is the source record. I'm going to go back to my titles list and just simply choose something else completely. It's, maybe I'll make it Medieval Monasticism instead. So we know that we have our source record and that Medieval Monasticism at this point becomes the target. So we're going to land up overlaying the content of bib 37723 with what we have in bib 60679. Let's just take a quick look at the hierarchy for both records. So if we take a look at the target record first, we can see that we've got both holdings and item record present. And if we take a look at the hierarchy for the target record, we can see that the same kind of things are present. Now, one thing just to take note of is that here we've got the graduate library as the holdings location, both permanent and permanent in the holdings record and in the item record itself. And we're just returning here to look at the hierarchy in this particular case, and you can see that these ones relate to the main collection. So we've got different holdings locations represented with this particular example. So I've got my target record forward, and I go through the record text menu to overlay, and in this case choosing the open entry. So I'm going to be using bib 60679 to perform the replace or the overlay. And in this case, I want to relink the holdings and items and to delete the source bib. I'll use my overlay profile and say yes. So at this stage of the game, bib 60679 is gone. We no longer have that particular record in the database because I chose to delete it. If we go to take a look at the hierarchy, we'll now see that we've got one set of holdings in the graduate library, another in the main. And so we've been able to take care of bringing that kind of thing across on the basis of using the relinking function and then deleting the particular source record altogether. And of course, the content of the record was completely overlaid, and we're now seeing that it now shows as being the source when in fact it was the target a little bit ago. So that's giving a way to be combining these sorts of things, particularly when you've got the possibility of having holdings that you actually want to have attached to this record and bringing together multiple sets of holdings in this particular area. So that's one example to show you. Another one, and here using the opportunity to relay holdings and item records while retaining the source. So in this particular case, I want to use something here on interpreting keys. And I'll retrieve both of those records since we, in fact, have put target and source details into both. So here we're now seeing that we have our source record. So we'll just move that one along. Take a look at the hierarchy. So there it's showing us that we have holdings in the graduate library and that an item record has been created. Then the target record, and we'll know that that is in fact the case. So it's there, it's showing us that target information. Let's go through and in fact the hierarchy again. So this time again things at name. So we'll end up seeing a pair of those things with a bibliographic record that's going to continue to be in the database because perhaps we want to be doing something else with it altogether. So in this case, again, using the overlay bib records. Now notice here I've now got multiple bib records open, and so we've got multiple bib records to be choosing from. So we really have to be, again, taking care, making sure that we get the correct one in place. So let's go with interpreting keys. So I do want to relink, but I wanted to not delete the source bib record. And you can possibly be thinking about reasons why you might want to do exactly that kind of thing. So I'll click on yes, and you'll see that certain things do happen. The source record remains in the database. Now, if we take a look at the hierarchy, it no longer has the graduate holdings and item record, but that the target record now shows both. And so it's giving us a way to be doing that kind of thing, perhaps bringing over particular content and things like that. And then a third example. And let me go ahead and just close out of these records. Wanting to use the RX for healthcare reform, this time merging records. And so we've got our source record. Again, it does have information in the 500 field to help with identifying it, and the target record being right here. Since this is going to be a merging of records, we're not so concerned about whether or not we're going to be relinking and relinking holdings and items records, because that is not what we're trying to do at this particular point. What we're wanting to do is ensure that a certain protected fields come along, and that we're protecting them. In this example, my protected fields are, in fact, we can go and take a look at that. In system administration, the 500 field is protected, and I believe I've got a couple of other fields protected as well, although they may not show as a result of our action. Let's go with our duplicate detection and the merge profile. So the merge fields that I want to protect are the 500, the 505, and the 590. So that's a configuration that I've created, one that I've said that I want to protect those particular fields. It could be others. It really just depends on where you might have local data that you want to be retaining. Go ahead and click on Save and take us out of there right now. And back in the cataloging client, choosing again the overlay function, but this time when we select our item, the thing we want to make sure we do is merge the records. And you'll see how we're able to identify this as a result of our actions. Let's just make sure I've got things set up. Yes, I do. And so now, as a result of having merged that particular entry, we can see in the target record that we've got two 500s. We've got the target entry. We also have the source entry. And so it's showing us that those are the ones that we wanted to protect in this particular case. That one, really just depending on how that merge profile is configured and on the basis of what kinds of fields that you want to be retaining. Questions on these three examples? Yes. No. Anybody else have a question? All right. I'm going to take us back over to the slides for just a second because I wanted to point out a couple of other options. Here, being able to look after things that relate to performing an overlay of a record for items that are associated with an acquisitions transaction or for a circulation transaction. Starting with the acquisitions variety. So here we have a purchase order that shows that all of the items have been received and that at least there's one related invoice. So at the time that the purchase order was created, the line items were added by using the add line template approach. And what this means in effect for catalogers is that there's a brief bib record that was put in. It may have only author, title, and ISBN and nothing else in it. A lot would depend on what kind of preferences that the library itself puts in place for this kind of thing. In this screenshot, we're looking at the title Nada, and you know, it's very brief information. We're not seeing the usual full 245 information that's displaying, and it's because we were using this brief process. So when we get into cataloging, here we can see the target and source records. So the target was the record that was entered as a result of the acquisitions information, and so it really doesn't include a whole lot of detail. Whereas the source record, it clearly is showing us that there is much more that's available for us. So in this particular case, the source record does not have any holdings or item records linked to it, so we don't need to worry about whether or not we're going to use that relinking function. We could simply then delete the source because we no longer need it. The content of the source record becomes the content of the target record as we make our way through. When we complete the process, then we and the overlay is complete, we then see much more detailed information showing up in the purchase order. And this kind of thing can occur before the purchase order has been approved and sent on to a vendor. So that's when the purchase order is in pending status. It can be done when the purchase order is approved and out there, and you're waiting for the items to be sent to you, or in the case where the items have been received and maybe you just haven't paid for it yet, or maybe you have. So there are lots of these sorts of things to be looking at. So it is something that that a cataloger can be doing to assist in getting those records into the database and in a fuller mode, perhaps complete mode. At that point, they're saying that yes, this is now the actual bib record that should be the entry. So just to show you an example of this, I am going to start by taking us out to acquisitions and having a look at an example that I've built into the database for this purpose. So performing a search and choosing the purchase order number. Oh, let's see here. Let's go with 505. And in this particular example, make sure we'll maximize that. We have the title, What We Know About Climate Change. So let's just see what happens as a result of working with this in cataloging. So I'm looking for it by title. And in fact, just looking in the results list, we can see that while the entries are similar, they are not identical. And so in the course of retrieving them, in fact, we can see that we have our brief bib record. In this particular case, it includes author and title information only, along with the 500 field that says this is the target record in question. If we go to the History tab, another thing that we can see perhaps is where the item was entered. Now, in this particular case, it is saying that it was entered at the cataloging desk. So maybe this is slightly out of sorts, and yet we know that record is represented in the purchase order itself. So in completing the process then, and in fact taking a look here at the source for purchase order overlay merge, we are able to then make that kind of thing come true. Now, when it comes to working with this, we want to delete the source, and so let's just take a look at what we all have here. If we look at the hierarchy for the target record, we can see that we have a holdings record and we have order status information. So one copy ordered as of that particular date. So May 20th, 2008. And if we take a look at the hierarchy for the source, well, we don't have any holdings information present, so we don't need to be worrying about relinking that holdings information at all. So bringing the target forward and overlaying the record and saying, yes, this is exactly what we want to do. We will delete the source bib since we'll no longer need it. We'll say, yes, this is what we want to do. And we now have that full-blown record in place of the brief one that was there a little bit ago. And it does indicate that we're now showing that source information in place of target. If we take a look at the hierarchy at this stage of the game, it still indicates that this is one copy ordered as of a certain day. And of course now we have that full detail in relation to this particular item. Now, another thing just to be taking note of here, as a result of this action, we now have the detail that says that this action was performed, the overlay action was performed. Earlier we were talking about create and update. Now, as a result of having performed that overlay action, we see that displaying in the record as well. Then I'm going to just take us back to the slides for a moment, and we'll talk about what happens with the the circulation transactions, although before I go there, any questions on the acquisitions variety? If not, let's take a look at what happens here when we try the overlay and merge in relation to circulation transactions. So in this screenshot, we're seeing the charged items index for Michael Tartaglione and indicating that it includes the title The Science of Sound. So at the time that the transaction occurred, the circ operator used the on-the-fly method to get that record, or to make the charge transaction for Michael. So we have, again, short information, but we know that it was charged. And the reason, as I indicated before, it could be that that the circ operator simply couldn't find the item in question, but they did have a barcode on it and so on and so forth, so they put all of that kind of information in place. Again, we've got brief bibliographic data, and so it means that, as you see here in this result, the same kind of thing that was happening: author and title information, and then in the target record and in the source record, seeing the full details. So when we complete the process, then we have our complete entry there that says that this now is the full bibliographic record that's associated with it, and we're able to then delete the source because the target now is the one that's connected to this particular transaction. So to show you an example of this one, I am going to, and let's do a little bit of cleanup while we're here, open up the circulation entry. To take a look at a particular patron, and in this case, Ms. Spears. Okay, so we have Caitlin, and she's got a couple of entries where you can see that we've got the full-blown details as well as two that where in fact things are fairly short. And so in this example, we'll use the title Shipwreck Hunter. And so we can see that its location is in the main collection. It's been given a temp barcode because maybe this would be a situation where the barcode had fallen off, had been torn off, was broken, whatever kind of thing. And so simply put in that temp information as a substitute. So with that in mind, let's go back over to the cataloging client. And we can see that we have these two entries. So again, taking a look, we have our target record, and if we take a look at the history, we can see that the entry was originally inserted into the database as a result of that transaction at the circulation desk. It's since been updated. I can't remember what I did to it, but something was in fact, or a change did get made to it. So then, as we take a look at the source record, we have a full-blown hierarchy on this one because the item, was received a while back. It had a holdings record completed, an item record was added with a barcode, and all of that kind of thing. And for whatever reason, and I understand from talking with others at other Voyager libraries, that it's quite common that the circ operator just simply can't find the item at the time that they're performing circ transactions, and so this is a way for them to get that sort of thing tidied up. So we've now got our hierarchy on the source record, and again, just confirming that well, this one in fact doesn't even indicate, it doesn't say that it's got a source record for it, but we have that idea behind what's going on here. So I'm going to go through that process of overlaying the records. And I am going to delete the source bib. Now, I have a decision to make about what it is I want to do with the holdings and items. Now, I'll just let me back out of this for a second. And you'll see here as I go to get the hierarchy for the brief bib that was entered at circulation, that it too has holdings and items. So we have a decision to make about this, and what are we going to do, knowing that there's going to be a little bit more cleanup to do after that, because perhaps we really only have one copy of the item. So with that in mind, going through again and saying that indeed we do want to relink the holdings and items and delete the source bib, because we do want to make these adjustments all the way along. So I'm going to go through and do that. And so we now have our single bib records. The hierarchy is showing us that we've got the multiple entries. And so we still have some work to do in order to accommodate this. So the second one that we're seeing here is the one that is charged to Michael, and the first one that we're seeing here is the original one in the database. So it's the sort of thing where now we would need to just really figure out what we're going to do. Let me go ahead and retrieve both sets of holdings records and get each item record as well. Okay, so that relates to 57730, and this one relates to, okay, so there's our temp. This is the one that was entered at the circulation desk. And if we take a look at the history tab for our brief bib, in fact, that's exactly what it's showing. So now we have to figure out what else we're going to do about this. Just heading back to the circulation desk or circulation client for a moment, and there we can see that now indeed the shipwreck hunter change has been made. The circulation transaction, of course, relates to this barcode TEMP or temp. And so if we were to attempt to delete that particular record right now, it would fuss because, of course, this is involved in a circulation transaction. So we need to be thinking about what sorts of things we would do instead. And there are a couple of probably simplest things to do. So we've got our main entry here that relates to the circulation transaction. We have our original entry here that relates to what was in the database in the first place. I'm going to go ahead and retrieve the item record for this particular copy. And here, I'm simply going to copy the barcode for the item from the original entry, take us to the one that was created at the circulation desk. So I'm going to edit that barcode and save it. Yes, it pops up the message that says this one is currently associated with another item. Do you still want to do this? In this case, I'm going to say yes, because I want to now delete this holdings or this item record and its holdings record. So I'm going to go through that process, delete that item, and delete this item. Okay, so there we know that this was the one that was created at the circulation desk. Of course, I now need to finish updating it and go get a hold of the call number, and I'm going to do that by just pressing Control-N to get it. Save that to the database. So I've now updated it, and the information that's displaying here, in fact, if we go to retrieve the item record again, it's now got the call number information displaying in it. So there is cleanup work to be done, particularly after when we're doing things in relation to circulation transactions, because the barcodes can be reassigned or used in this particular way. We may wind up having a circ operator create a holdings record that has nothing to do with where the item is originally located. So there's stuff to be taking into account with regard to the circ transactions in particular. I'm going to take us back over to the slides, and I wanted to just tell you a little bit about some things that you're going to find in the database. The opportunity to practice the overlay and merge transactions in a Voyager 7 database. Over a period of 3 or 4 months, I put in something like 250 examples that relate to overlay and merge. And so it gives you an opportunity to try each type in multiple scenarios and be able to try the various kinds of things. So if you're in the cataloging client and you want to retrieve examples, perform a keyword free text search for any of the following. And in fact, if you just go with V7 as the keyword free text search, you'll get any of this group of 6 that appears. And then just a small trick that relates to it, and in fact I'll show you what this looks like. Close from that. If we perform a keyword free text search simply for V7, we get this 541 records where that information is found. So that I can now get pairs of records, and because I'm using the sort function, I click on the full title entry so that I organize everything alphabetically, and I see the pairs of records. So I can choose, for example, Alice and Alice. I open them up, and then if we go to take a look at the 500 field, we can see which record is expected to be what, along with the instruction about what kind of thing we're going to try and do. So in this case, sort for overlay with relink or delete. And so then we know what sort of transaction we're going to be performing. And of course, this one's showing as target for overlay with relink or delete. So really being able to practice that kind of thing in a way that I think will help you once you get into your own production environment. Okay. Then, of course, being able to identify duplicates. How do we go about finding these duplicates over time? And one suggestion has been just to create some queries to identify duplicate records in the database. Some suggestions are, show me all of the records where we've got identical ISBNs, ISSNs, or LCCNs. Now, in my own database, I've got something on the, just by virtue of this particular project, 250 pairs that fit into this particular category. You might decide to perform a query that says, essentially, show me all of the brief bib records added to the database by acquisitions or circulation transactions. So when the circulation or acquisitions desk is the place where that information has been added. Maybe bid records added by a particular staff operator. So if you've got an acquisition staff operator who's adding bid records into the database, then being able to identify them very specifically and say, okay, we're going to work with operator A today and make changes to those bid records as is required. And then, of course, bib records that are suppressed from the OPAP because of duplication. Things just getting into the database because they might be there for a whole variety of reasons. And of course, there are other possibilities as well. And I will encourage any and all of you to be thinking about these things, sharing them maybe with me so I can share them with others. And go on from there. All right. Questions about the overlay merge functions? Okay, if not, let's move on to looking at the batch suppress, unsuppress. Here we've got the opportunity to suppress and unsuppress bib and holdings records in batch mode via the pick and scan function. So this means that we can be making bulk changes to specified item data, which we've been able to do for a while, things like the status, type, location, and so on. But this has now been extended to include the options to suppress and unsuppress bib and holdings records. The item records remain the key to working with the pick and scan functions, because we have to be able to identify a particular item uniquely. So it means that we use that barcode a lot. Some scenarios on how you might use this sort of function. We've got an operator preparing to withdraw a group of materials from the library, and that person wants to suppress these items from the OPAC before in fact doing that. So they collect a group of items together and then go through the batch suppress process for them. Or in the case of item number 2, maybe we're preparing to move a group of items from one location to another, a new one, and we want to change the status of the item records, or we want to change the status of things temporarily and suppress them from view in the OPAC while the move is underway. So then once the move is complete, then we unsuppress the records so that they'll be viewable in the OPAC again, but now with the new location present. So this really is a way to be doing an awful lot without having to open up all of the individual records and make these changes successfully. So when we take a look in detail, here we see a bibliographic record for the title Darwin's Biological Work, and we can see that on the System tab it is showing as not being suppressed from the OPAC. When we open the pick and scan function, and we're able to do this using Control-I as a keyboard shortcut, we see the suppress from OPAC option displaying. So there is a drop-down list that's available for us, and in this particular case, suppressed was selected. I then go on to the Items tab. So we have item options where we are at the moment, then the Items tab as well, and enter the barcode, scan the barcode, whatever it might be, and we see that in the bib ID entry we have unsuppressed now showing as suppressed. And so then when we get back to the bibliographic record itself, it then indicates that the records are indeed suppressed from view in the OPAC. And if we were to take a look for them, that's exactly what we would be seeing. So just to give you an idea about this, I'm just going to step back here for a second and show you an example of what it looks like when we do this sort of thing specifically. Okay, closing out of that entry, and here wanting to, I'm at this stage of the game just going to simply retrieve a record for, let's go with something in science, and we will organize that differently there. Choosing science, its effect on industry, politics, war, education, religion, and leadership. Okay, fairly old item. If we go to the System tab, of course, we can see that it is not suppressed from the OPAC. Going to get hold of the barcode, because of course that is a critical piece in all of this. So, and here in cataloging, I can just simply use Control-C to copy that information. And we'll go ahead and close that part of things. So then choosing the pick and scan function, either from the, okay, we'll get it yet. Yeah, there it is, under the File Text menu, or choosing Control-I, or entering Control-I. I have my various choices that I'm able to work with. Let's say in this particular case we don't want to be, or we're not concerned about changing location, but instead we just simply want to suppress this item from the OPAC. I'll choose from the drop-down list to make that suppressed. And of course, the thing to remember about in Voyager is that when we suppress the bib records, everything beneath it in the hierarchy also is suppressed. We also have the opportunity, of course, as you can see there, to suppress only the holdings records, and that might be something that would be done when we have multiple holdings, something located in the graduate library, something in the music library, something at the main collection, and we want to suppress the holdings and item record for one of those entries. In this example, though, sticking with just the bib entry and going to the Items tab, here I'll paste my barcode in, and there you see the 91208. And I can either click on the check or I could have pressed the Enter key. So the thing that we see as a result of this is that the bib ID 19311 now is showing as being suppressed. I'm going to go ahead and close out of this, and curious that it's not showing there as being suppressed yet. I wonder why that is. Wonder why. But there it's now displaying as being suppressed. So there's where my suppressed records entry has come into play as well. It just simply needed to be refreshed. And so it's now showing that that's indeed the case. So if we were to try and now find this in any of the other staff clients or in the OPAC, well, in the staff clients we would get the suppressed information. In the OPAC we wouldn't see it at all. So it would just simply be hidden from view. If I want to go through and unsuppress, and so here pressing the Control-I to activate the pick and scan option, I'm going to say that I now want to unsuppress the record and paste the barcode in again, and it shows that we've gone now from suppressed to unsuppressed. So using the individual barcodes in this way might be something that you need to do when you gather things together from around the collection, and that they may not be easily identified by result of creating a query to look for various things. But there also are the options of being able to process a file of records. And for that, I'm just going to head back over to the slides for a moment. With the using the suppress option to navigate to where we've created a file of records so that we can process a whole list of them. So you can see what this looks like. I do have an example sitting here in my folder or my directory, and it's just simply a list of barcodes, in each case with a hard carriage return following each entry. So I've got some 5-digit barcodes, I've got a 7-digit and a couple of 8-digit barcodes. It could be a very much longer group. Much just depends on the sorts of things that you're trying to do. And notice the file name, main to grad with suppress. And so it's an instruction to me to say these are the kinds of things, the settings that I want to be undertaking. So I'm going to be moving the things from my main collection to my graduate collection, and I'm going to suppress along the way. So when I do that, and let's in fact close out of this for now, when I go to try this kind of thing again, Control-I, and so I'm going from the holdings record that's in the holdings location that's in the records at this time, and I want to now, there we are, to the graduate library. I also want to make a change to the permanent location because this is going to have an effect on the item records. So there we go with graduate library in both the holding location and permanent location. I'm going to choose my suppress status and go to the items tab. From here, I will navigate to where I've got the files. And so in this particular case, and this is one reason why it's really helpful to name things well. So main to grad with suppress. There's my file. I'll click on open, and now I'll process the file. This file has about 10 barcodes in it, I think, and so you'll be able to see it processed through. So it says main to graduate library. We are seeing the unsuppressed to suppressed, and how all of that's going through without my having to open holdings or item records all the way along. Okay, so we've now completed that. We can see the results, and as I'm clicking up, it's taking me through a whole list of these various things, and I can see what they are. I can choose to print the list at this stage of the game, so I know that action has taken place. Can save it to a file, or I can just simply close out of the pick and scan option. So this might be an example of making the move to another location where we're temporarily suppressing things from view while the move is underway, and then reactivating it a little bit later on. To the best of my knowledge, there is no limit to the number of barcodes that get worked with. The big thing here is just that we have them stacked on top of each other, and that we're able to get a really clear reading on each one of those particular items. And of course, being able to now unsuppress them without making any changes in the holding or permanent location, because we've now made that change to the graduate library. And in fact, let's go ahead and let's grab hold of this item, taking control. And so here we get to, when we go to retrieve the holdings information, there we see that it's showing now as grad. If we go to the history tab, we can see that in fact the update had occurred today, just a few minutes ago. And when we go to take a look at the item records, we see that the graduate library entry is in place as well. So now would be a case of, and in fact on the system tab, seeing that it is indeed suppressed from the OPAC, so we would not be able to see it there until we're ready for it to be viewed once again. Questions on the batch suppress and unsuppress? Okay. Go ahead and close out of those and take us back to the slides for a moment. Talk about the updated tag tables. The tag tables have been updated to match the current library standards for both Mark 21 and OCLC. So this happened, in fact, just before general release of Voyager 7. And if you were to take a look at the tag tables files, you'll see June 2008 dates in them, showing that this has indeed happened. There are more updates to the Voyager cataloging tag tables scheduled to be taken care of just before any of the major and minor releases appear. One thing to take note of is that if your library is making use of local 9XX mark fields, and that these fields will need to be added again to new tag tables because, of course, they are local to your environment. So that would be something that you would need to be undertaking in any case, regardless of the update status of these entries. So for the Mark 21, This is through the update number 8 for 2007 and through the MARC proposal 2008-03. And the URLs here will show you much more detail about those sorts of things. And you can also see the sort of thing here that relates to the OCLC MARC format update. And so that's been brought right up to date at the time that they were added. And of course, should changes have occurred since then, then those will be added the next time that there is a release. All right. Now, before we get down to looking at this, the functions in acquisitions to know about, I'd like to recommend that we take another short break.